this list, in our number 10 spot, we have Matthew Wayne. We have all had quite the year trying to adjust to the differences we are currently facing, but some people certainly have an easier time adjusting than others. Matthew Wayne is a small British YouTuber who posts videos of himself playing paintball, but he found himself in some hot water earlier this year. For some reason, Matthew decided it would be a good idea to film himself calling in a bomb threat to a hospital. Apparently, he was upset at some treatment he had received closer to the beginning of the global spread of the coronavirus and thought that it was an appropriate way to deal with his feelings about it. During the phone call, Matthew allegedly referred to himself as a YouTuber, made a ton of accusations towards the staff, and apparently also made a racist remark. I can totally understand being frustrated, but this really takes it to another level. Shockingly, Matthew was only sentenced to 12 weeks and a few small fines. Let's hope this was enough for him to have learned his lesson.
Next up, we have a teenager who admitted to murder while he throws up in a courtroom in at number 9.
Mosley became ill in court today after he pled guilty to aggravated murder and other charges. Prosecutors believe the reaction was a genuine sign of remorse.
So that was remorseful Timothy Mosley. Remorseful or not, he murdered 18-year-old Justin Michael Back in Waynesville, Warren County, Ohio. Justin Back was murdered at his family's home. Mosley took a plea bargain to avoid the death penalty. So all Mosley had to do was give the court all the information they want of exactly what happened and what was his involvement in this murder. There was another teenager involved as well. He was identified as Austin Meyer. Austin was given the death sentence and he became the youngest inmate on death row in Ohio at the time. Meyer was sentenced to death at the age of 19 years old back in 2014. He is still currently on death row and his new execution date is in 2022. That is just absolutely insane. Do you guys think that teenagers should be allowed to be given the death penalty? Let me know in the comment section below. Alright, number 8.
In the direction of the deceased torso and lower extremities with that 2 times.
So that was a gangman who murdered 15-year-old Alessandro Guzman Feliz. The gunman was a part of the Dominican gang in the Bronx. So this death occurred in a mistaken identity, so the wrong person was killed according to all the testimonies. There was 12 suspects in this case. Right now there are 4 suspects in this case, including the guy who we just saw incarcerated at Rikers Island. They are segregated from other prisoners and they've been receiving heightened security protection at the prison due to receiving death threats from within the prison and even from their own gang members for killing an innocent teenager. So let's just say that being locked up right now might be the safest thing for these teenagers. Next up, number 7, we have a bunch of teenagers freaking out in court.
The end result, more individuals being taken into custody.
There was a group of teenagers who led police in a car chase after stealing a vehicle. These are some pretty serious crimes, but yet in the courtroom these teenagers were not taking the situation seriously. It just looks like they're all trying to impress each other.
At the hearing for 15-year-old Maurice Thomas, the suspected driver, and 15-year-old Thomas Butler, seen here smiling for our cameras, the pair seemed to show up to show out in front of a judge.
I think these kids have to be on drugs or something. And why are they giving gang signs in the courtroom? Next up, number 6, we have another teenager who might have taken a lot of drugs. It looks like this kid is going through withdrawal because he appeared in court shaking like crazy and it looks like he just can't control himself. So this right here is 17-year-old Jeffrey Hazelwood from Georgia, and you can see how much this kid is shaking in court. It looks like he can't control it. Hazelwood is accused of killing 2 teenagers behind a grocery store. He is facing a ton of serious criminal offenses. On top of the murder cases, Hazelwood will be facing aggravated assault, theft, and financial fraud charges as well. Hazelwood does not look mentally fit during the investigation and his hearing. There was actually a video of Jeffrey Hazelwood freaking out during an intense investigation where he said, "I didn't shoot them," but then as the video goes on, he says, "A voice in my head said to do it."
Running away the first time, after you shot them, running away.
Didn't shoot them.
Because the bad guy would have gotten you. That's the story that we're going with. The invisible bad guy that looks just like you.
So, contradicting himself a little bit, and he's admitting that he actually did it. I do hope this kid can get some serious help. Moving into number 5.
Come back again.
That was 18-year-old Penelope Soto, who appeared in court after she was arrested for possession of a prescription drug as Xanax. While in court, she decided to just laugh at the whole thing and cuss at the judge. Well, this turns out to be the wrong move.
It's not a joke, you know. We have not had any kind of drugs in the last 24 hours.
Actually.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Come back, ma'am. Come back.
The judge upped the bail.
Count one would be 10,000.
Are you serious?
I am serious. Adios.
So after all of that happened, the teenager still didn't learn from that. The judge raised her bail to $10,000. He dismissed the teenager, but on her way out, this happens.
Come back again.
And the judge flipped.
What's up?
I believe I heard you saying to...
Yes, I did. I'm not going to the...
I believe you... Did you say me?
Actually, I
Did you say that?
Yes, sir, I did.
Oh, you did say that?
I'm not
I find you in
gonna lie.
direct criminal contempt. 30 days in the county jail.
I can't help but to laugh at this. This is just stupidity, and hopefully this is a lesson learned. Alright, number 4.
Indicate that Miss Me presents a flight risk, or that she would, with the conditions that we've proposed and any others that the court would add,
This video actually went viral because 15-year-old Jennifer Me was crying hysterically, and she was hiccuping as well. And now she is dubbed the Hiccup Girl. Piers Morgan actually interviewed the Hiccup Girl, talking about the crimes that she committed. She was given a life sentence without the possibility of parole, and this is for a gunshot murder despite not actually pulling the trigger herself. Jennifer Me was just with the wrong crowd of people. Moving into number 3.
When Luis Reyes learned that he'd be in jail for the next 30 years, you knew just by his body language the bailiffs would have to hold him.
That was Luis Reyes Jr., who was just sentenced to 30 years in prison after his very sinful act of sexually assaulting an 89-year-old woman. Is this real life right now? That is just sickening. Well, in court when he found out his sentencing, he started to freak out and he had to be taken out of the court and restrained. The 89-year-old woman was actually there in the courtroom listening to the sentencing. The teen did apologize for what he has done, but the court didn't think Reyes had remorse, hence his sentencing. Number 2.
Brings 17-year-old Jacob Muzan and 18-year-old Drake Campbell to tears.
That was 17-year-old Jacob Muzan and 18-year-old Drake Campbell, who broke into tears in court. They were both being charged for murder, attempted murder, burglary, and 2 counts of armed robbery. Both of the teenagers only started crying when the judge denied their bonds due to a lack of emotion they gave during the trial. Both teens showed no remorse. One of the sisters spoke in court, and she apologized for him, and she knows that in their hearts they are breaking. So they're not showing any physical remorse, it's just all the remorse inside. I don't buy it. And finally, number 1, we have this. That actually sounded like a gunshot went off. I was actually really afraid when I watched this video. I was like, what the heck just happened? Well, that was 19-year-old Dexter Johnson from Texas, who had to be restrained from police officers after he decided to lunge towards the victim's family. I mean, haven't you done enough? This came just after he was sentenced to death, so he thought, you know what, there's nothing else to lose, let's just go hurt some more people. Luckily, there was like 30 officers in that room. One of the county court deputies actually tackled, like he lunged and tackled Johnson to the ground. And that happened just before he was able to attack the family members.
Coming in at number 10, we have Quinn Skaggs. Right off the bat, with a name like Quinn Skaggs, you know this guy means business. This guy sounds like he's a character from a Guy Ritchie movie. If you're in the crime world and you're dealing with Quinn Skaggs, he's probably going to cut your pinky off when you don't pay him back in time. Now, Quinn had a long rap sheet when he was brought in. He was only 17 and he had already been arrested for a burglary spree where he was breaking into people's homes while armed with a handgun. Man, at his age, the most dangerous thing I was doing was trying to convince my older brother to buy me a Mickey of rum so I could feel cool at a party. Skaggs also got into a fight at school, and when a teacher tried to break it up, he beat the hell out of the teacher, who needed to have surgery on his face. This 17-year-old was being held in a detention center and then kicked out the window and used bed sheets to scale down the side of the building like he was in the show Prison Break.
In our number 9 spot today, we have Kangwa Ren. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. Kangwa Ren, who is better known as his YouTube name Reset, makes gaming videos and has over 1 million subscribers on his channel. In 2017, he made a video that saw him remove the cream filling from an Oreo, replace it with toothpaste, and then give it to an unsuspecting homeless man who later threw up. When people began to give him backlash for this video, he removed it and instead put up another video of him giving the same man a $20 bill, as if that's compensation enough. The judge in this case certainly took into consideration the fact that he had made more than $2,000 on this video alone, so the measly offer of $20 was most certainly insufficient. The court decided on a 15-month sentence and a fine of $20,000, as well as a 5-year YouTube ban. It is unclear if Reset ended up actually heading off to serve his sentence or not, but his channel hasn't been posted on since August of this year. In our number 8 spot, we have Austin Jones. Austin Jones was a YouTube musician who started on the platform all the way back in 2007. Last year, Austin was sentenced to 10 years in prison for soliciting underage girls for photos and videos. The complaints started in 2015, and in 2017 he was arrested. He ended up pleading guilty and admitted to using different platforms such as Facebook and iMessage. The 10-year sentence comes from him pleading guilty on one count of the things that he was accused of. Initially, his YouTube account was demonetized once the allegations came to light, but it was quickly removed entirely following the guilty plea. In our number 7 spot today, we have Ruslan Sokolovsky. Okay, this one is kind of crazy. Russian YouTuber and law student Ruslan Sokolovsky is facing jail time because he was playing Pokemon Go in church. He had filmed himself playing the game and a few weeks later was awoken in his apartment by the police coming in to arrest him. Apparently this is a crime in Russia because it is obviously offensive to the people who were there to worship. I completely agree that it was extremely rude and distasteful for him to pull this kind of a stunt, but 5 years in jail for playing Pokemon Go does seem kind of insane. Like, Matthew Wayne called in a bomb threat to a hospital and got a significantly lighter sentence. After Ruslan was arrested, he was on house arrest for a while and is banned from speaking to anyone other than his lawyer and the people who are investigating him. This arrest is seen as very controversial and has a lot of people discussing freedom of speech laws. While I'm not exactly sure if there has been an official sentencing or not, Ruslan is facing 5 years in prison for this offense. In our number 6 spot, we have Billy Altidore and Ivani Lewis. Billy Altidore and Ivani Lewis are the YouTube couple who run their channel called Beam Squad. The pair post videos of them and their family doing challenges and pranks and just talking about their daily lives. Last year, the couple was arrested and charged for fraud, which they of course documented on their YouTube channel. According to court documents, the pair used stolen identities to create fake bank accounts and debit cards. The pair then used personal information that they had stolen in order to access the Social Security Administration website, where they then made direct benefit payments into their new fake bank accounts. There were allegedly 1,400 people whose benefits they tried to access, and of course some were successful and some were not. After this, the couple then used stolen personal information to file false tax returns and again directed the false tax returns into their fake bank accounts. Of course, they were eventually found out, which is what led to their arrest. They both pleaded guilty, and Billy was sentenced to 2 years, while Ivani was sentenced to 1 year and 1 day. And they were also fined close to $94,000 in restitution. Billy has since gone away to serve his time, but because of the fact that they have kids, Ivani will be waiting to serve her time until Billy is back and able to take care of the kids. Their channel continues to grow and gain subscribers and sees around 12 uploads a month. In our number 5 spot today, we have Daniel Silva. Daniel is a YouTuber and tattoo artist who may be better known for his time on the tattoo competition show Ink Master. Daniel uploads videos of him tattooing and having conversations with celebrities, influencers, and athletes. Things took a really sad turn for Daniel earlier this year though. On May 10th, Daniel was speeding his 2020 McLaren 600 LT with his friend and famous YouTuber Corey LeBerry in the passenger seat when he accidentally lost control of the vehicle and ended up crashing into a stop sign and tree. This crash ended up taking the life of Corey. Daniel was then arrested and ended up pleading no contest in July. In August, he was sentenced to 364 days in jail as well as 5 years of probation, 250 hours of community service, and if he fails to comply with any of his probation terms, he'll be facing a 4-year prison sentence. Daniel has actually since been released from prison, but his YouTube and Instagram accounts both remain inactive. In our number 4 spot today, we have Ferdian Paleka. Earlier this year, the YouTuber was arrested after posting an extremely transphobic video. The video showed him handing fake aid packages to trans women that were actually filled with bricks and garbage and rotten vegetables. Of course, this video came under immediate fire for its disturbing content, and Ferdian responded by posting a fake apology video. He was charged with online defamation under the Information and Electronic Transactions Act, which carries a maximum 4-year prison sentence, as well as deliberately breaking the law and bringing harm to others, which is punishable by up to 12 years in prison under the same law. After Ferdian's arrest, there were videos posted that quickly went viral of him being ordered around to do embarrassing tasks by other inmates. The videos received comments from his parents about how much it angered them to see their child being humiliated publicly. They are absolutely right, because that is not okay, but it sure is ironic. Luckily for Ferdian, the trans women that he victimized have decided to drop the charges against him, so he ended up being released from police custody earlier this year. But of course not before he made a snide comment that he was more comfortable in his jail cell rather than in his car before driving off. Hopefully this was just an ill-timed joke and he has learned his lesson, because things truly could have been a lot different for him. His YouTube channel remains active with just under 300,000 subscribers. In our number 3 spot today, we have Andre Pies. Andre is a Russian YouTuber with roughly 800,000 subscribers who posts videos of himself exploring abandoned sites and bunkers. He was arrested in August for allegedly obtaining and spreading state secrets. He has yet to face trial, but he is still in police custody and could potentially receive up to 8 years if he is found guilty. It is unclear if Andre plans to plead guilty or not to the charges against him. His lawyer has said that the charges are not linked to any of his social media posts, but some people speculate differently because of the fact that there is a suspicious anonymous comment on one of his Instagram posts. The post was from when Andre gained access to a functioning radar system that Russia uses for its nuclear strike early warning system, and the comment was promising him that big trouble was coming his way, which is super ominous. As of right now, his channel is still up, but it hasn't been posted on since an almost 3-hour live stream on August 2nd, where he apparently speaks about his legal issues, but unfortunately I can't speak Russian and the English captions aren't so great, so I have no idea what exactly he is saying. In our number 2 spot today, we have Anthony Locke. Anthony Locke, who's better known as his YouTube name Gas Kings, was a YouTuber who posted car videos. He has almost 700,000 subscribers and his most viewed video has 7.7 million views. In 2018, Anthony went to trial over a scamming scheme. According to the court, Anthony and his partner Ray decided to set up a fake website in order to scam people out of their pensions. The website claimed that you could sign up and invest your pension funds, and that half would most definitely be returned back to you, but the other half would be invested into different eco-friendly firms, which ended up not being true at all. Instead, Anthony took the money from pensioners and spent it on expensive cars. If stealing people's money wasn't bad enough already, apparently some of the victims were already in financial turmoil, which certainly just makes the matters worse. Anthony stole close to £1 million and was charged with 23 counts of fraud and 3 counts of money laundering, which landed him a 5-year sentence. In our number 1 spot today, we have German Abraham Loera Acosta. German was a small but mighty YouTuber. He would put out motivational messages for his subscribers to view and was known for his catchphrase, "I think the mind is the only thing that limits us." While this may be true and potentially some great advice, things really took a turn for this guy. In February of 2018, the 25-year-old YouTuber was part of a group in a scheme that devised a plan to kidnap a woman named Talia Dennis, who is a lawyer, and hold her hostage for ransom. The YouTuber rented a house where Talia was held captive and demanded 2 million pesos in Bitcoin in exchange for her safe return. Well, it didn't exactly work out as planned. The police rescued Talia 2 days after her kidnapping, and boy am I glad that she was uninjured, although I'm sure that would have been a super traumatic thing to have to live through. All of the men who were involved have been arrested, and just this year German received his sentence of 50 years in prison, as well as a fine of 500,000 pesos. I'm glad that the kidnapping and ransom of Talia was obviously taken very seriously.
And at number 10, we actually have a teenager who started to freak out after she was denied any possibility of parole. She was really hoping for it. When she was denied, she started to freak out. So what you're about to see is a 19-year-old killer who killed 21-year-old Nathan Potter. The victim's family was very afraid, but they are glad that they're being locked away for life. At least they can sleep at night knowing that a killer won't be out there.
Coming in at number 9, we have a big breakout. If you're gonna break out, you might as well bring some of your friends with you, right? Well, some teens in Nashville thought that this was the best idea. They had a plan to break out, and I think it worked better than they ever would have expected. Here's an opening from the news story that was covering the incident.
Good evening. Take a look at these photos. Tonight, the hunt continues for 7 teens who escaped from the Woodland Hills juvenile.
The news highlighted the 7 that were still on the loose, but 32 actually made a break at the same time. That's what you call teamwork. Basically what happened was all of these teens kicked out the windows to their rooms at the same time and then jumped out the windows and hightailed it into the woods. Now you might think it would have been confusion that caught all of these cops off guard, and that's why so many people were able to get away, but it was actually just incompetence on the side of the police. They didn't even notice that the teens had escaped until an hour after it had happened. Coming in at number 8, we have Miko West. If you break out of prison, the first thing you're going to want to do is lay low. Well, that's what they have you believe in the movies. That there's some secret hideout you can go to and there's a bunch of your friends there. Maybe there's an Xbox and there's always really good food. But in reality, when you get out of prison, you have nowhere to go. You don't even have clothes to change into, and you're obviously in an orange jumpsuit. So unless you have everything planned out, most criminals who escape will turn back to crime because it's the only way they can get money and something to eat. This is what happened to Miko West. He was able to break out by swiping a key card and then opening the front door and just walking right out. That sounds like something that was pulled right out of a video game, but it was true. Then he got busted when he tried to steal a candy bar. The dude was just trying to get something to eat. Coming at number 7, we have the Nashville teens. A juvenile detention center in Nashville was holding 4 possibly dangerous teens who managed to escape in December of 2019. How they escaped is still unknown, but it's thought that they snuck past the guards and then jumped a fence and then were on the run. Now, why were these teens being held? I mean, the 4 of them were between the ages of 15 and 17, so how deadly could they be? I keep thinking about what I was doing at that age, and I really was just trying to spend more time playing video games and less time doing homework. That's as crazy as I got. Well, it turns out that these 4 might have been up to something a little more intense. 2 of them were wanted for armed robbery, and the other 2 were wanted for murder. Well, I don't think there's any homework in jail, so I guess that's a little bit of a bonus. Coming in at number 6, we have Joyride. A Louisiana detention center had 3 teens break out with an escape vehicle that was drawing a lot of attention, because there's a lot of ways in which you could slip out of a detention center. You could do the whole walk through the woods thing for hours and people chase you down with lights and dogs. That's a classic. There's also the Shawshank crawl through a mile of poop and then you come out on the other side and then you move to Mexico. Or my favorite, which is sit on each other's shoulders and wear a massive trench coat and a fake mustache, but that's a very advanced technique. But these teens wanted to escape in something that was a lot less inconspicuous. The 3 of them decided that they would jump into a cop car and drive into the city. Well, it didn't take long for the cops to pull them over and the 3 teens were thrown back in prison. It seems that these teens were going for the hiding in plain sight approach to sneaking away. Coming in at number 5, we have It Worked in the Movies. Let's move back over to Nashville, where one teen wanted to try another escape tactic. This goes to show that you can't trust anything you see in the movies, because when you tried in real life, it doesn't work out at all. Like when this teen tried to escape from a juvenile prison by walking through the ceiling. When you see something like that happening in the movies, it always seems like the sneakiest move of all time. When someone slides through the vents and it's all perfectly clean, and then when in reality it would be packed with bugs and it would be one of the loudest things of all time. Well, look at what happens when people try to recreate the movies in real life. As you can see from the clip, they could hear him walking around in the ceiling, and eventually he came smashing through the drywall. You know what? I'm gonna give this guy an A+ for trying and even getting into the ceiling in the first place. Even though his plan didn't come together, it's still very bold. Coming in at number 4, we have Bretan McAuliffe. This one is actually terrifying. Bretan McAuliffe was arrested for attempted murder. He was only 16 years old, so they put him into a juvenile correctional facility. He was meant to serve all of his time there, but while staying at the facility, they thought it would be a good idea to include him in a program that would help troubled youth find work while they were serving time. So he was given a job as a construction worker, and it seemed like things were going well until one day he just vanished. He literally just walked off the job site. A very simple escape plan, but an effective one. This is where the story gets even crazier. Bretan was on the run for over a month, and in this time he stole a gun and shot a woman 4 times. Thankfully, the woman lived. Coming in at number 3, we have Ty Harris, the getaway master. It doesn't matter how hard the police try to catch this kid, it seems they can't keep him behind bars. Ty Harris was originally in a standoff with police where they were chasing him down for robbery. He had this standoff, but then he slipped away. The police eventually caught him, and then he was locked up in a Nashville juvenile detention prison. While staying there, he realized the best way to not be in prison is to break out through one of the windows and escape on foot. This is when his skills at evading the police came into play again. Ty made it to a strip mall, and when the police showed up, he hid behind a truck and the cops didn't see him, and then they drove off while he was right under their noses. Ty then stole a truck from this strip mall parking lot where the cops were just looking for him and slipped away and was nowhere to be found. Holy moly, this kid is good at not getting caught. Coming in at number 2, we have party time. Sometimes you break out of prison not because you wanted to get free and run away from your punishment. No, you just wanted a little bit of a breather. You want to stretch your legs a little bit, maybe catch up with your friends and feel good for a little while before you have to go back. Well, apparently this happens more often than you would think. Juvenile detention centers all over America have had teens who break out after prisons are finished doing their rounds. They will sneak out and go party with their friends for a little while, usually have their friends meet them outside with some sort of substances that make them feel really good. Then before it's time to wake up in the morning, they will be back in their beds like nothing happened. Maybe prisons should be a little more fun and people wouldn't be trying to break out all the time. God, I'm so smart. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have TJ Lane, one of the most terrifying teens to ever escape prison. TJ Lane was given a triple life sentence for coming to his high school with a handgun and killing 3 students in cold blood. He did this all while wearing a shirt which he wrote the word killer on the front. On top of this, in a way to mock his victims, he wore another shirt that said killer to his sentencing. While held in a state prison, he saw an open window and made a break for it. Thankfully, he wasn't on the loose for very long before he was captured. This could have turned out to be so much worse, but he was quickly taken back to prison, where he will most likely be for the rest of his life.